Today, I want to hear a really dramatic story.
What does grammatic mean?
Dramatic.
Exciting, scary.
Oh, I like exciting, but I don't like scary.
It's easy to scare you.
Aw, don't do that, boys.
Scary stories often end well.
Oh, yeah, but you can never be sure.
But that's why they're so much fun. Please tell us a real dramatic story.
How about the Pied Piper of Hamelin? It happened on Christmas Eve. A soldier was standing guard at the city gates in the bitter cold when suddenly he saw something.
What is that? Holy moly! It can't be a pack of wolves or I'd hear howling. Good grief, could it be rats?
Indeed it was. Millions of them, a great river of rats stretching as far as the eye could see. They were tumbling over each other like waves. They poured over the walls of the town in a horrible, squeaking flood. They ran under doors and scurried up drain pipes. Gangs of them tumbled right down people's chimneys. The citizens grabbed weapons to defend themselves, but it was useless. Ladies jumped onto tables, knocking over candles and sending food flying, while they held their skirts up high and screamed for dear life. It was certainly a Christmas Eve to remember. The rats ate everything, the stuffed turkey, the sausages, the cheese, everything. And next day they were still there, everywhere, in cupboards, under beds, everywhere.
It's enough to make you...
What's that?
Mercy me!
Opening a drawer was like a nightmare. 10, 20, hundreds of rats would jump out at you.
Well, I don't know, Hans. These traps seem a tad puny.
And I thought the cockroaches were bad.
They gobble up rat poison like it was raspberry jam.
It wasn't long before the rats had eaten all the food they could find, but they wanted more. No basement, cellar, or pantry or larder was safe from the rodent army, and there was nothing they wouldn't eat. Flour, ham, sugar, spices, grain.
Now winter food stock has all been eaten.
And when every ounce of food was gone, they started to eat other things.
Leather! They love leather!
Leather for breakfast, feathers for lunch.
Never had such a disaster befallen the town of Hamelin.
Oyez, oyez! Our good burgermeister offers a generous reward of 50 florins to whoever rids our town of rats. Go thusly.
On the morning of the third day of the rat plague, a stranger appeared in town. He was tall and very thin, with dark stringy hair, black as ebony, and a bright blue outfit.
Who are you? I'm told there's a reward of 50 florins for him who rids the town of rats.
What's it to you?
50 florins in gold.
Of course, you interested?
Get my bag of gold ready.
Really?
But the piper was no longer listening. No sooner had he begun to play than sharp little gray snouts began poking up from cellar doors and pantry windows, their eyes glittering and their whiskers a-tremble. And then they abandoned their gnawing and feasting and began to pour into the streets like a great river. They swarmed to the town square where the piper played, as if they could not help themselves. And when the piper turned and headed for the river, they followed. Right to the center of the bridge he walked, and they surged past him, plunged into the water, where they drowned.
No rats left, not one.
Come, get your reward. I have for you 5 florins.
I beg your pardon, we agreed to 50.
I said 550. Take it or leave it. 5 florins is my final offer. You think you deserve 50, good sir? Just for a paltry 5 minutes of labor.
That I do.
Then he turned and left the town by the same way he had arrived. Next Sunday was New Year's Day.
Yes, I got rid of the rats, including that blue skinny one. What? He's back!
Indeed he was, just as tall and skinny as ever. But this time he was dressed in scarlet. He spoke to no one. In fact, he seemed to look right through them, his eyes glassy and his face expressionless. But as his music floated through the square, a strange thing happened. All the children of the town began to stream out of the houses as if they were enchanted, and formed a great circle round the piper, where they danced and spun and laughed. When he turned and began to walk, they followed him, and when the townspeople tried to stop them, they found they could not. Their feet were rooted to the spot. The piper led them out through the city gates, and far beyond the walls of the town, straight into the snowy mountains. and they never, ever came back.
But Papa Beaver, what happened to them? Where are they?
No one ever saw them again?
Did they live happily in the place that he took them to?
Well, they say that if you go to the mountains where they disappeared on midnight of New Year's Day and press your ear to the rock there, you can hear the sounds of children singing, dancing, and laughing.
They're still there.
They're having a great time.
Dancing and singing.
Though it was hard on the people left behind.
There should have been a king. He would have made him pay the piper.
Well, in those days,
The king sat under a big oak tree.
and dispensed justice.
Everyone knows that.
Tell us about those days.
I'll tell you about the king who could not sneeze. Well, he hadn't always had this problem.
Oh, your highness bless you.
Thanks, folks. You're most kind. Now, where are my slippers?
Every day in the palace began joyfully. Once the king had deeply, profoundly, and satisfyingly sneezed, the cook was able to light a fire in the big ovens. The servants went about their business in the great halls, the ladies in waiting gathered flowers, and peace and happiness reigned over the entire kingdom when the king began each day with a great sneeze. But one morning, the king woke up and attempted to sneeze as usual, but no matter how hard he tried, he just could not get that sneeze to come out.
What is going on? Well, this will never do.
The king was very upset, and the court was worried too as they waited for him to appear. They hadn't heard him sneeze yet, and that was very odd.
It's coming. Hold on. I almost...
His valets dressed him and at least got him sitting on the throne.
It's no use. It just won't come.
The court was in commotion.
Well, almost.
The royal guard tried to inspire the king with a trumpet salute.
Nothing. Let's try a nice ice bath.
Nobody could do a thing to help the king. A feeling of gloom and doom descended over the palace. The fire went out in the big ovens, everyone stopped working, and the ladies in waiting just kept waiting and waiting and waiting. All palace business shut down. The king no longer met with his ministers. In town, the stores were all boarded up. Even the schools were closed. Everyone hid behind closed doors and locked shutters. Only the king's gardener continued working. Sneeze or no sneeze, he carried on, for he loved his work with all his heart. He also loved the king's daughter, Princess Flossie, though of course no one knew, and especially not Flossie, who never bothered to ask where the flowers came from that were brought to her each morning. She had other things on her mind. Her old nurse, however, was a much more observant person. Flossie would have been wise to take her advice more often than she did, but she loved her nurse just the same. The nurse, of course, knew of the gardener's love for Flossie.
Ask your father to go and sit under the apple tree in the garden. Why should I do that? I've an idea.
So they brought the king to sit under the tree.
Almost. Oh, I hate this.
It was such a beautiful day, and the plump, juicy red apples glowed in the warm sunshine. The royal guards played the royal fanfare, and people ran about spreading the glad tidings.
The king has sneezed! Long live the king!
The townsfolk threw open their shutters and came out to celebrate.
Whose idea was this?
Must have been the trees. We'll make a golden crown for that tree. And silver apples on every branch. How about we spray it with perfume? You're all wrong. The reward goes to the person who planted the tree.
And of course, that was the gardener. So they brought him before the king.
Tell me what you want.
The princess's hand.
Oh, yeah, like our Flossie to marry some two-bit gardener.
But Flossie looked him over, and gosh, he was cute.
Okay.
So preparations for the wedding were begun immediately. about we sit under the apple tree?
To watch the apples grow?
I'm afraid that's not too exciting.
It is if you sneeze.
And an apple comes down and bonks ya.
Oh, yeah. Then a cute gardener can save you.
All right. Sounds good to me.